right, well, it is 6:30, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call.
Commissioner Bottenberg,
Present.
Commissioner Jarvie,
Present.
Commissioner Mishra, present, Commissioner Martin, present, Commissioner Hefner,
Present.
and Commissioner Williams, present, and Commissioner Rahman is absent.
Do we do a pledge of allegiance if we don't have a flag?
That's a good question.
I think we did last time. We did?
Yeah,
we just.
Okay, we just look at you.
I'll remember to wear American flag t-shirt.
I know, right? It's that's a really good question because I know in non-profits we've been to haven't, they haven't had a flag.
I can put a flag
Oh,
up.
you can put, okay. I can put a flag up. Let's do it.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Oh.
All right, stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, have you had time to look over the agenda for tonight? Do I have a motion to approve? I approve. I'll second. Thank you. And the minutes from our last meeting? Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I second. Any public comment?
Not that we see. Is anyone online, Mike?
Nope, nobody online.
Okay.
Well, then, we'll move right into our new business and our discussion with some of our nonprofit providers. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Mary Martin. You're probably the only one here without a name tag because I forgot mine.
We just got ours today.
So I'm just serving as president this year. So thank you for coming, and we'd love to hear about what work you do and how you've been serving our Sammamish residents. If you could, well, let's start with the commissioner.
Just do like, yeah, like
Shall
name
we
and
start with that?
introductions and then we'll do it for the providers as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Well, I'll start. I'm Mary Martin. I've been a Sammamish resident for 15, 17 years, something like that. And this is my third year, I think, on the commission. And I've been learning a lot about the nonprofits that the city serves and partners with. So I'm happy to have you here and to hear more about what you do.
Okay, my name is Samya Mishra. I have been a citizen of Sammamish for almost 7 years now, and I've been on the commission for the last 2 years. It has been a roller coaster ride. So we do input a lot of time into assessing the submissions from different nonprofits, and then this year we are actually visiting many nonprofits to see how the funds are being used, and that is really touching because we exactly know where all the hard work we have put in is going and how is it being so fruitful to the community, and kind of you start validating your work and everything you do when you feel so good about it. So yeah, that's where I am at right now. Thanks.
My name is Eric Jarvie. I'm new on the commission as of a few months ago and learning as I go. Really enjoy the chance to learn about what Sammamish does in human services. And one of my interests is trying to find ways to tell this story to others in the community who don't even maybe know that we have a human services commission. But really excited to be here. I also like volunteering and spreading opportunities for volunteerism, which is how I met some of you, and appreciate you being here tonight.
I'm Joyce Spartanberg. I've been with the commission for 10 years now and lived on the plateau since '86. So what's that, 39 years? And I just enjoy what we're able to do as far as meeting the human services, funding what we can, and then telling the stories that we hear from you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Nick. I've been a Sammamish resident for about 5 years now. It's my first year on the commission. I've 4 small children, so kind of learning the different areas that can help families and learning from other people on what these nonprofits do for the citizens of Sammamish.
I'm Elizabeth Williams. I joined in February, March. I've been a public servant at various agencies for about 15 years now, but I joined due to lived experience. So it's good to have you all here.
Do you want me to go?
Sure,
Or
yes.
wait?
I can introduce myself quickly before I get into the details. My name is Kizza Sheriff. I'm on the board of Essentials First. I'm also function as their CFO. It's a pro bono position. And I'm really thankful to the city of Sammamish that has funded our nonprofit. And we're very thankful. I've been a longtime resident of Sammamish, been living here for 25 plus years. And as we get through the panel, I'll talk a little bit about the work we do and how we serve the community.
My name is Ron Zanko. I've been in, I guess it was called Issaquah when I first moved here at Sammamish, and it's 37 years. I moved from New Orleans. I'm a native, from my southern accent, people say I'm from the Bronx, but I'm actually from New Orleans. Yeah, and I'm the president of St. Vincent de Paul here at Mary Queen of Peace right next door. And was on the commission for about, I guess it was about 3 or 4 years with St. Vincent before I became president. They told me it was an easy job and don't ever believe it. It's a thankful job. It's really rewarding. And, any good organization always surrounds themselves with good people. And so I brought my grant writer, Mr. Bert Sewell here. So go ahead, Bert.
My name is Bert Sewell. I've lived on the plateau for 31 years and have been with St. Vincent de Paul for 12 years, actually 13, I guess now. And as you mentioned, I am the grant writer and enjoy doing that. And what more can I say, except Ron is a great president. There's no one that works harder than him, except maybe for me.
And my name is Carol Schneider, and I'm currently the president at Issaquah Community Services. I've been volunteering with ICS for about 4 years now. So I'm sort of the newbie in the group, but certainly found that it's sort of jumping right in to all of the needs. Probably the most important thing I have to say tonight is thank you. You have supported ICS for longer than I have been volunteering now. And you have made an enormous difference in the lives of people in Sammamish who really need that help.
Thank you. Well, why don't we start with a presentation from Bert and Ron? And let's start with you.
With that presentation? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, yes, we'll just start with hearing from
Oh, yeah,
your
So
organization.
I don't know if you're able to portray the slide. If not, we can just.
Yeah, everyone's got a copy of the actual.
So I can see. So this is a presentation. I don't want you to think I did this special, because honestly, we did one for the city of Issaquah. We finally got grant money with Issaquah this past year, and it was a big success. So they asked for some to learn more about us. So I thought this might be a good way to kind of break it out. Maybe more than what you want to know. If it is, just let me know, and I'll quickly slide over it. But St. Vincent de Paul is a very large organization. It's been around since early 1800s, 1833, and you can see the members. You can read pretty much what it's got. It's got a hierarchical structure where in many different countries, there's international councils, there's national councils, there's regional councils, and there's what's called the local councils. And the local councils have what's called precincts that kind of group pieces together. So on the east side, we have a King County precinct, and it's comprised of 7 different St. Vincent de Paul conferences, which we tend to think of as parishes or churches, as I call them in the church. So we partner with St. Joe's in Issaquah, and they're another St. Vincent de Paul organization. So, you know, as far as our mission goes, I think most important thing I always tell people, you know, who is St. Vincent de Paul, and what are we all about? And you know, it really is important to understand our neighbors in need. It's you know, it's very difficult sometimes for people to ask for help, and you know, some people really, they wait till it's too late, which is really unfortunate. Because we always want to try and help people, and sometimes the ask is so big that we can't do it by ourselves. And thank the good Lord for people like Carol here with Issaquah Community Services and Hope Link, and I mean, I could go on with the different organizations we have, but we partner with quite a few groups when the nut's too big to crack, as I always say. You know, they come and they need $5,000. It's like, you know, that's a big ask, because you know, the funding, and I know Carol said it earlier, but it's because of folks like yourself that we're able to do what we do. We get a very large grant from the city of Sammamish, which is really helpful, because there aren't too many other organizations in Sammamish that do what we do as far as rent and food and car repairs and things like that. So it really does help us with that money. We rely on the contributions of our parishioners. Very generous church next door, and you know, we have a lot of folks here working for big tech companies that they not only contribute, but they actually, if they are a member of St. Vincent de Paul, they actually get paid for their service when they're doing it. And we get those proceeds that we reinvest with our neighbors, which is really helpful. You know, one of the things, and I've got a brochure I'll give you at the end, but one of the things I was an accountant before I became an IT director. And one of the things I really pride myself with St. Vincent de Paul is the proceeds that we get are used to help our folks. There is no social events. You know, we don't have a big social gathering. I'd love to do that, but that's not the intent. So you'll see less than 1% is used for our neighbors, and the 1% is things like paper and, you know, brochures and fundraising events. You know, sometimes I'll do an advertisement on that in the bulletin, you know, and little small things, but they all go hand in hand. We do visit our neighbors. One of the things I really think is important, we're not just a phone service where you call up and we say, "Hey, write you a check," you know. It's more than just the money sometimes with these neighbors. They need to know that they're valued, and that people want to really help them and listen to them. And you know, sometimes you think of yourself almost like a little caseworker, you know, a little mini caseworker, where you go in and it's one thing, you want to hear the problem and how they got there, but then it's like, well, what's going to happen next month and the month after? So you know, and maybe it's the accounting background, but I'm always got the numbers rolling in my head. You know, well, tell me more. You know, and it's not used to determine whether we help them or not. The financial, you know, whether you're making 5,000 or 100,000, you know, things happen. People lose jobs and they're in a situation they are. So it's like, well, what can we do to make you fix the problem now, but more importantly, to continue where you don't, you know, you don't need it every month like that. And it's not an easy solution, I'll be honest with you. But you know, I mean, and you're probably getting too deep, but sometimes you go on a home visit and there's teenage boys there, and I'm like, you know, ask them to be part of the conversation. You know, and tell me more, you know. And it's like, well, you know, would you be willing helping your mom, you know, and how do you help? And just, you know, parents sometimes are a little shy about asking for help, you know. It's just the nature of our thing. So, you know, we had one gentleman who actually he was actually working as a construction worker and making good money, but he wasn't giving his mom anything. And I said, you know, can we get a little skin in the game here, you know? And your mom was afraid to ask him, but he's like, well, yeah, I didn't realize that was, you know. So it's kind of getting people to talk about their problem and really making it happen. So but you know, we do visit our neighbors at least once a year if they need help, if they've called us before, you know. And it's 6 months ago, and we probably wouldn't do a home visit on that. We would just understand the problem and help them. But we have a lot of different you know, intentions. I should have talked about that. We have 18 folks in our, I say active members in our organization right now, which sounds like a lot, but some of them work. And so it's not as easy to go on calls. So some of them are very limited, you know, activities, but we have, you know, probably 10 of them that are really active members. Bert here is probably one of my most active members. He's not only with St. Vincent de Paul, but Kid Vantage. He helps out with getting clothes distributed and things like that. So a lot of different activities, grant writing, et cetera. So anyway, that's a little bit about, we don't discriminate. I mean, we service, and I don't think any organization should, but we service all race, creed, color, you know, it's not, you know, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, whether you get help from another organization. We're here to help too and partner to make you whole. So I feel like one of the things you probably would want to know most about is this highlight page. It kind of in a capsule quickly gathers where we're at. So, you know, one of the things you'll hear tonight probably is how much more need there is than there's been in previous years. There's a lot of reasons for that, but you can see in 2024 we spent 52,000 for the full year, and in 2025 through 8 months, this was done at the end of August, we were already at 41,000. So, you know, if we continue at the pace we're doing, and I'm guessing we will, because things do tend to pick up in the Thanksgiving, Christmas timetable, the need's even bigger. We'll probably annualize out of them about an 18.9% increase, or about 61,000, which is going off the memory here. My apologies. I said it's not on there, but it's on the pie chart. 61,998. So it's going to probably go a lot higher. You know, because the funds, like I said, grant money is really important, and we really appreciate the grant we got last year. It was slightly less than the previous year, but we understand funding is always a big issue with any organization. You know, so we're always looking at ways to, like I said, I had this dream when I first became president, because they did away with our bingo fundraiser, which used to, not bingo, it was actually an auction, I'm sorry. And it was like, it used to pull in like $50,000, which was huge, and they didn't replace it with anything. So I'm like, well, this is great. You know, my first year as president, I just lost 50,000 of my funding. But we did our own fundraiser. We did a little bingo, and it wasn't huge. We made about $5,000 on it, but every little bit helps, you know. And it's the strangest thing, but it seems like whenever you're out of money, the Lord always provides it. Money, some parishioner makes a contribution. It's like, wow, you know, this is great. So you know, we really do rely on that, and the contributions from the grants that we get is most helpful. So thank you so much. You can see 2025, the number of families we helped. You know, we've already helped more families this year than we've helped in the previous year. The number of individuals helped. You know, some of these families have, you know, 3, 4 children. Usually, there's a lot of single moms or single dads with children. You see that a lot in the group. Sometimes it's a family with no children, but you know, different things result in that. You know, challenges that we face, and this I feel strongly about. You know, looking at it is obviously the number of neighbors is increasing and the needs. It seems like we tend to put a lot of folks here in the Sammamish-Issaquah area that come from the Renton and Kent area. I don't know if because it's housing available or maybe Section 8 or whatever, but they do end up here, and it's kind of like, you know, you really feel for them, because this is not a cheap place to live. You know, they're, especially if they're in the YWCA and the View area, like in the Highlands, in that area. I mean, QFC is the only store they got, and it's not the cheapest, you know, grocery store there is within walking distance. So you see them really struggling with that. You know, the food bank is a big help, obviously, it helps them, but inflation's been a big issue. The funding is always an issue. First and foremost, in my mind, is making sure we have the funds, because I think the worst time I would ever have is if somebody called and we couldn't help them. Sorry, we're out of funds. And you know, some of the St. Vincent de Paul's down south run into that problem. They just don't have the funding, and so we can actually help them with money that we have. But one of the things we do ensure is that the money that you give us for Sammamish residents is used for the city of Sammamish. The same thing with Issaquah. We get a small fund, but that's used for those Issaquah residents as well. And then the money we get from our parishioners is used for all residents, regardless of which city they're in. So, next, we've got a pie chart. If you look at that, you'll see that the biggest spend has been on rent. And if you want to go to 2025, I want to talk more about where we're at now. In 2025, we've spent 24,636. That was through 8 months, and that's, you know, we spent 29,000 all of last year. At the rate we're going, we're going to probably finish out at about 37,000. So a big increase in rent. It's the largest expense we have. Utilities is up significantly as well. You know, from the prior year, we probably tack out at about 13,000 there, and that's way more than what we had the previous year, which was about 6,000. So all of the, you know, we do food, we do vehicle repairs. And the vehicles, you might say, well, why are you fixing people's cars? Well, that's their only mode of transportation. So if they lose the car, they lose their job, and it's just like a snowball effect. So we do try to help people where there is. We work with another service station out in Bahani that helps us with inspecting cars and doing repairs for a reasonable rate. Household goods, we help people with cleaning supplies, soap, things like that. Our human concerns group also partners with us and does Christmas as well as school supplies and things like that. And they come to us to ask for families in the Sammamish and Issaquah area that we've helped, and we match them up with the need.
Ron, who did you say that was? Human Concerns or something?
Oh, we at Mary Queen of Peace in our church, we have another ministry called Human Concerns.
Okay,
And the church gives them money from contributions from our parishioners, and they make sure that we use it for not only our parishioners, but they come to us. And, you know, you don't have to be a member of Mary Queen of Peace's church to get help with St. Vincent de Paul. Like I said, we help everyone regardless of their religion or race, creed, color. So that's, I think, just a quick, probably said that too fast and maybe too much information overload. That's why I wanted this handout. You can take this with you. I've got a little brochure that we use in our church, and this really is a good summary of everything we do. So you know, if you want to get one of these at the end, we can just grab one, and if you're not interested, you don't need to take it. But like I say, I'm very proud of our organization. We myself as a president, we meet quarterly down in Seattle with all of the conferences that come into the city, and we have a president that runs the show and kind of gives us direction as well. There's training that our Vincentians do. We call ourselves Vincentians with St. Vincent. And we go to like a people person skill that we really learn to listen and interact with our folks. And there's also just the whole process of St. Vincent de Paul, and what we're all about, a 2-course session that we do. So that's kind of it. I don't know, Bert, if you left anything out of your
I think the only comment I would make that the numbers you see on these charts, that's half of what we do, because Issaquah has grown so much, and there we actually spend more money in Issaquah than we do in Sammamish now. So you double these numbers to see what our total output is. So I think that's.
These numbers with individuals helped are Sammamish only. That's what you're saying.
And like I said, we've never gone bankrupt yet when I've been president, so that's the good news. We've always had money and.
Well, not always, there are times, I
Well,
remember
that's good.
a few years ago, yeah.
That was before I was president.
Yeah, we had $400 one time, and that's when I started my week's duty, and said, oh my God, it's not gonna work.
We did go in the red one time. We bought a bed on credit, and we knew we had 30 days to pay for it, and we got the contribution from the basket that Sunday that got us covered. But shortly after, we got grant money. Sometime I think Bert can talk more about when you get reimbursed for it, but you got to spend it before you get it. So we're kind of like following suit there. So as soon as that got caught up, we were back in good shape. So, yeah.
I have a question if I could. I'm curious, with the tech layoffs that we've seen here in Sammamish, and we're kind of a tech heavy city,
Right.
have you noticed an increase in needing to help
I would say
families?
not, when you say an increase, a very small increase. I've had one gentleman who was an IT person. It was like a year ago, he got laid off, and he had gone through his savings and his 401k, and now he was looking for help. He said, it's really hard to find a job because there's been so many other layoffs.
Right.
And you get it. I mean, it's tough, somebody making 6 figures, and everybody isn't frugal and saves every cent they've ever made. Some people have a lot of spend and things, but he had gone through every dollar he had. And he was finally to the point where he had to ask for help. And I said, don't be, nothing to be ashamed of. It happens to the best of us. And, it's, you got the education, we just got to get you back and track. And so to your point, yeah, we have, and I think we're going to see more of that probably as time goes on.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a time lapse aspect to it also,
Yeah.
like the burn rate.
Right.
How do most people hear about you and come to you? Is it from recommendations from partner agencies?
Well, a
usually?
lot of the there is partner agencies, 211, which is where people call when they're in trouble. They quickly give our name out in the squad community and a few other ones. like that for help. The apartment complexes know us well because when they get, you don't, the last thing they want to do is evict a tenant. And, it's nice when they call before they ever get to that point, but sometimes it's the last minute, but they will give them our name as a resource to call. I'm sure they probably Issaquah community and Issaquah too. So, and go trying to make it work, come up with the number they need.
And how does the process work in case you guys are not able to help them? Do you recommend them to other agencies right away, or is there a
Oh,
parent agency and the case goes back there and probably then the parent
Yeah,
agency?
when we visit neighbors, when we go on these home visits, we hear what the problem is, and then we kind of understand what it is and then how big it is and whether we need to give them other resources. I think it's very important, it's easy to just write a check and give somebody something, but I think when you get the neighbor to get some skin in the game, as I call it, is like, I could pick up the phone and call Carol and, call the different agencies for them, but you want them to really kind of work with you as opposed to you doing everything. It's like a kid, they don't learn anything when you do it all for them. So I'm a firm believer in, get them involved, and no matter how small or how big it is, but make them feel like they helped solve the problem. Not Juan came and he did everything for me, and I've seen really good results with that. We wish we had more resources to give people, and the worst thing is when you give them a resource and they're out of funds. So I try to make sure we know which organizations are out of funds, so we don't send them there, because that's kind of a, I called them and they said we didn't have money. Well, if I already know that, I don't need to give them a resource that's worthless, but doesn't have any funding to continue helping them. But yeah, we try that.
Actually, that gets me to my second question. Have you denied help to someone after validating that it was probably the person is in need, but there can be more done by the person to get out of that situation, really? So how does the validation work?
Yeah.
That's what my question was. Like, we can't just, with all our heart, we really want to just help someone who comes to our door for anything, right? But then that validation process is important, and probably saying no to the right thing.
Right.
Can I just very quickly check, do you think it may be, because I feel like a lot of the questions might be relevant to all the providers.
Yeah,
So do you think it makes sense that we have all the providers introduce and say what they're talking about, and then, because I think Commissioner Mishra, your question was, I think,
kind
could
of
be
a broad
answered by,
question that
yes,
would apply to
yeah.
everyone.
Does that make sense, Chair? Yeah, okay.
That's a great
absolutely.
question.
Yes,
Let's remember that one.
because I'm like, yes, this is like ding, ding, ding. I'm sure the others would like to, so yeah.
Miles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good, because I think we have some questions that
Yes.
probably would apply to all
Yeah.
of you.
Absolutely.
So shall we move on to Carol and?
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you for all your support for years and years. And thank you for having me here tonight to talk about what we do, because it is complicated. There's a lot of ins and outs to it, and I'm so glad you'll be able to ask the questions that you have. Issaquah Community Services is not as old an organization as St. Vincent's is, but we are almost 52 years old, right here in Issaquah. We were started by several people in the little town of Issaquah pretty much before there was a town of Sammamish. And they were looking at what did our community need, what were the greatest issues. And that was around 1973 with the Boeing bust and the sign, as you left the city, so the last person out, turn out the lights. But there were people still here and they wanted their lights on. So this group formed to try to be as helpful as possible. It's completely a nonprofit, and in fact, all of our workers are volunteers. We do not have any paid staff at all. And yes, that's a stretch. And maybe more now even than it used to be. Now we need to bring in some people who actually understand the computers we use and can fix them when things happen. So we broaden what we look for in volunteers. Be people who can, talk on the phone to the residents who are requesting help, but also people who can do all the support work to make everything happen. We have about 20 or so active volunteers at this time. So, and about half of them, actually 9, are on the board of directors. And they are very much the managers of the organization. Our purpose is to provide emergency help with rent and utilities in order to keep people from being evicted. So it's a very specific mission. It's gigantic, but it's also very specific. We only help in cases of rent. We don't try to help people who are running out on their mortgage. I mean, and we clearly don't have that kind of money. So it's very specific what we do. And it is emergency help. There's certainly people we would love to be able to just give them $500 a month because we know they need it, because they're living in Issaquah and they're living on $1,000 a month Social Security. And there just isn't enough money to make that work. But we also recognize our limitations. We really can't take on groups of people in Issaquah to support. So it is when things go wrong, we want to be able to be there. After the cancer diagnosis, after the unexpected divorce, after the car accident, to get people through, say, that next month, so that they can pull themselves together. And also so that we can give them referrals. I think there was some discussion of that, which is absolutely critical, because none of us can meet all the needs that we're seeing. And unfortunately, the entire city of Sammamish can't meet all the needs. So it's very important that we connect people to others. Some of our favorite connections are sitting right here. When we hear that they need more money than we can do, we say, well, we might try St. Vincent de Paul, because we know that they will help you if they possibly can. And so frequently we partner on helping people. So what we do, we have a very active webpage with incredible resources on it. It's actually about the first resource list I've seen that anybody keeps up to date. And we have one particular volunteer who, checks and makes sure that those phone numbers work, that the places are still active. So, and on there is an application that people can fill out. They fill it out, they submit it online, so they completely get started that way. And then we talk to them. And we talk to them on the phone, partly because the sheer numbers, we wouldn't be able to go to that many houses. But we have found we have to talk to everybody. We have to understand what's going on. And so many of the clients, they really need to talk to someone. This was never what they thought was going to happen in their lives. And they are totally bewildered. I got an eviction notice. What is that? I've never seen one before. And it says 30 days on it. What can I do? So we can't really, help them through that on a detail level, but we can tell them the agencies that can, and the specialists in working with legal issues, to help them figure out how are they going to get hold of what's going on in their lives. In addition, we ask them to send some documents. We need photo ID, we need first page of a lease, we need income information, and we need a ledger that says what have been the charges and the payments for that unit for as long as they have lived there. So we can see if they have been paying every month on time. Or we can see that every 3 months, they need to get help. And so we can, again, when we make referrals, we can try to help them work through that. How long the process takes, it can be as short as a few days. If there's a very organized person who can fill out that form and give us all the information and talk with us on the phone, and then we can talk with the apartment manager. I mean, we can go through that very quickly. It usually isn't quick, just because it's usually more complicated than that. Sometimes people need to call St. Vincent de Paul and see what they can do to match what we're doing. So it's a very personal process, very, very individual for what the families need. I was looking at numbers the other day, and the first 9 months of 2025, and I'm giving you the numbers for the entire organization of Issaquah Community Services, and I'll explain what that means. We served 320 families. It's included 485 adults, 418 children. And we have dispersed $212,668. Some of that money yours. And again, thank you. That's a lot of money. And it means working really hard to bring in that kind of money. We have also, until the end of July, we were able to connect people to a fund at Puget Sound Energy. And that connection was through the food bank, through the Salvation Army. And then we could actually get a bill paid for up to $600 per year. That fund ran out of money at the end of July. We can't do that anymore. Fortunately, Puget Sound Energy still has some other resources. So they're actually about the easiest bill to deal with, but people don't know it. I always feel terrible when they say, well, I don't have the rent because I paid it to PSE. I said, you didn't have? No, I don't tell them. But it's an issue. So when I said that that was the total picture, it's because we serve the land mass of the Issaquah School District. And that's because back when we were formed, there wasn't anybody else. No Sammamish, no, I guess it would be East Bellevue, no Maple Valley, no North Renton. So it was just wherever the school district was, we were there. And so now, of course, what we have is more divisions, and we're fortunate to be supported by the city of Issaquah and by the city of Sammamish. And in Sammamish, in the first 6 months of this year, so these are not comparable numbers, we served 28 households in Sammamish itself. 50 adults, 47 children. And our target for the year, and that's what, when we fill out that grant form, we say how many places we will be able to serve that year. Our target for the year is 36. So if we were at 28 at the end of July, we're going to be way over. We always are. So that as long as our other sources of income, the grants, donations, as long as that comes in, we're not worried. Though in reality, there will be, I mean, we're all aware that there will be a time when we simply can't serve someone because there's nothing there. Instead, what we try to do is stretch it out as most as we can so that people get what they absolutely need. It's an incredible, satisfying thing to get to do. When I retired, I wondered, what would I do with my time? And now sometimes I think I need to retire again. I figured out something that would keep me busy. And it is just the most satisfying thing in the world to talk to someone who's just falling apart. Because again, it's such a shock it's so embarrassing. And to say, yeah, I think we can do that. Let me get with your apartment manager. Work with them on just how we're gonna give the apartment building the funds in order to help you get out of that. And thank you for listening. Thanks for having me here. I know that I'm eager to hear yours because this is what I haven't heard before.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Kiza Sharaf. I represent Essentials First. So Essentials First is a relatively new organization, 501c3 from 2017. It's got a pretty interesting history and a deep tie to the city of Sammamish. The organization started in 2017 by a young person who went to East Lake High School. She was in high school here. When she started this organization, she started it as Kids for Peace, KITS, Kids for Peace. And it really was her vision to her and a couple of friends at East Lake High School to really do something for people on the street. So they started pulling together these little kits to give to people who were unhoused on the streets at different, on the streets of Seattle, and even any exit here, you see people panhandlers. So instead of giving them money, they started pulling together these little kits with some basic hygiene supplies, right? The small toothbrush, a toothpaste, a small hand sanitizer bottle, a little rain poncho, things like that, right? It went to this kit along with a $5 gift card for Subway, or they can go get a meal. So they called it Kids for Peace, and they used our garage basically as a way to kind of they ordered supplies, all the friends would come together, and they'd give these things. Well, the organization was going on, and then 2020, 2021 happened, right? COVID. And that's when we started getting inundated by requests from school districts and from a lot of refugee resettlement organizations saying, these little small kits are fine, but now we have families who really need hygiene items, right? They need soap and shampoo and laundry detergent and feminine hygiene products and things around that nature. So these kids kind of and we were helping them, they kind of graduated to starting to become building these bigger bags with some of these items. And if you remember COVID, those things were so hard to get, right? So the demand just kept increasing. And if you remember 2021, 2020, 2021, 22, while the COVID crisis was happening, we had a lot of influx of refugees into our area from Afghanistan. And a lot of refugee resettlement agencies found us, and they said, can you give these little bags and little kits? So we were getting inundated with requests. So we actually commissioned a feasibility study. We hired a consultant to go out and do a study to find out, why is there so much need? Are there other organizations who are addressing this issue? And some of the information that we got was just heartbreaking, right? We found that just in King County, there are 42,000 households that really didn't have access to regular hygiene items, right? Basic human dignity items that most of us take for granted. We also found, and this was a shocker for us at that time, we didn't know what hygiene insecurity meant. We had heard about food insecurity, housing insecurity, but hygiene insecurity, that was a new term for us, right? So that's when and part of the study, we discovered that while there were state and federal programs that allowed you to go get food, EBT cards, SNAP dollars, you could not use any of those to get these very basic hygiene items, right? Girls were getting bullied in school. So school districts were telling us, can you provide feminine hygiene items or deodorant for kids, because they didn't want to come to school because the girls didn't have these menstrual products. Boys were getting bullied. So there was this huge need that we just stumbled upon, right? And this is a gap in humanitarian services that no one was addressing. And part of our feasibility study found out that, while there were some ad hoc efforts going on, right, there would be church groups or school groups that do this little small hygiene drives and take these products and donate to a local food bank. There was no sustained effort to address this gap in humanitarian services. So that's when we came together and said, okay, we've rebranded ourselves from Kids for Peace to Essentials First. That happened right on 2021. And we basically, I think, graduated, so to speak, right, from the small organization to Essentials First. And since then, we've grown rapidly, right? We got the grant funding that we bootstrapped through individual donors. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gave us a huge grant that allowed us to go to one of the bishop's storehouse and get these hygiene products. Amazon gave us some funding, as well as Seattle Foundation gave us some funding. So allowed us to bootstrap, and then since then we've kind of like grown, and we got the first set of Eastside Human Services funding. I think this is our second cycle. Grateful to the city of Sammamish to doing that. Now we have like 3 different offices. We have one location in Bellevue. We have one location in Redmond at the Redmond Together Center, and we have another location in Kent that just opened up last year, because that's where a lot of the refugee demographics live there. So the kind of people that we serve are low-income families making 30% or less in the area median income, who really can't, they have to make a choice. Do I pay my rent, do I pay for food, or do I get my family, these essential hygiene, human dignity items, right? So those are the families we serve. We serve a lot of youth, the McKenna-Vento Act. I'm not sure how many of you know that, but these are kids who are going to local schools, who are couch surfing. They're sleeping in someone else's couch, but they're going to school. Those kids need these basic toothbrush, toothpaste, hygiene items. We serve them. Refugees, that's a huge demographic that we serve. We are the only organization that's able to serve, refugee resettlement agencies like IRC and, Catholic Community Services and Lutheran Community Services. So we have 4 different programs right now. The first program is what we call our Community Kits program, where all of these items get packed into a kit that serves, and I wish I had pictures, but it's all out there on our Essentials First site. There's a bag that serves a family of 4 for at least a month. So those kits have essential items. They have laundry detergents, pods, they have shampoo, they have soap, the pack of feminine hygiene items, razors, deodorant, some very basic items. There are about 12 items that go in the bag that serves a family of 4 for a month, right? So people can come in and pick those up. And we serve them out of these 3 different distribution centers. The other second program we have is what we call our volume distribution program. And we work with, selected food banks, because it's the same people who are food insecure who are also hygiene insecure. So we have requests from Renewal Food Bank and HopeLink and all of these food banks. People come to them and say, do you have a toothbrush? No. Do you have a toothpaste? And these are some basic human dignity items, right? And it just, people should not have to kind of like go and ask for these kind of things. So we provide these items in bulk to some of these food banks, and unfortunately we don't have the funding to be able to supply to all of these food banks, but we serve about 6 in the local area, and we send those products to them in pallets. We call that our volume distribution program. We also provide socially and culturally appropriate food, because that's something that families tell us, hey, when I go to a local food bank, I can get just mainstream food items, but the term, what we've heard them say is like, it feeds my body, but doesn't feed my soul. So ethnically sourced products. So we provide them either with food cards or boxes of food specifically for the Latino community, or for the Middle Eastern community, or for the Brazilian community. And we have these boxes prepared and kept, so we are able to provide them. And then the last thing that we just started as a pilot is what we call our Essential Skills program. And again, this is a new program. And again, we are learning a lot from our clients, because these clients come to us and say, especially refugee women, they don't have a lot of skills. But the women want to contribute to the thing. So we're teaching them sewing, for example, right? We provide sewing machines, and we have people who teach them basic sewing skills so that at least they can start some home-based business. So we started off with sewing classes. Those classes are so popular now. We run it twice a month now. in the Kent area, but now we're expanding it to the Seattle and, the east side, Redmond and Bellevue area. And then we are adding other programs, like we're thinking of adding other programs around, lawn maintenance and things like that, just to empower families to build these essential skills. So that's our latest program. So those are the 4 big programs that we do. We also have a strong program around advocacy and outreach. We're trying to engage the lawmakers and tell them, and it'd be surprised, we've been surprised that many of our lawmakers don't even know that EBT cards can't be used to buy these hygiene essentials. And there's such lack of awareness. And that's affecting some of our funding too, because when we apply for grants and we say, hey, these are, essential needs, the grants are defined very narrowly essential needs, meaning just food. So a lot of times we're saying, there are essential needs even beyond food, right? So you're looking at just the top of the iceberg, so to speak, housing and food, but there are underlying needs, and there's a big gap in humanitarian services. A lot of our funders and lawmakers are not even aware of this need. So we have an advocacy program now. We work with officials at the state level, city levels, and even at the federal level to kind of like educate people and see are there long-term solutions to address this gap in humanitarian services. So we've got a person who drives a lot of advocacy and outreach efforts, connecting lawmakers and everything else. So that's really our organization, what we do. So unlike other organizations where the outreach is broader, we are very focused on a gap in humanitarian services that no one else is doing, and we're trying to address that and going deep and trying to solve the problem. So that's our organization. We have about 4 employees right now. We have a governing board, many volunteers who come and help, and everything else. So I was really excited, Commissioner Mishra, when you said that you'd love to come to these nonprofits. We'd love to invite you to come to either a Redmond office or a Bellevue office, participate in one of our packing events, because that's something that we do often. Is like we have all of our products that show up in boxes, and we mobilize volunteers and community members to just come and help put the kits together. And that really, opens a conversation about the need and everything else. We'd love to invite you to come and participate. And again, we're very thankful to the city and city of Sammamish. We see a lot of people from the city of Sammamish coming to our Redmond office to access these both our World Food Program as well as our Community Kids Program. So the need is increasing, need is growing. So if we're looking for ways to increase our funding so that we can serve more and more people. So I'll pause there and then we'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you, both of you. Like, it was such an amazing introduction. I was completely absorbed into your stories and everything, all the examples and all the experiences you've shared. I have so many questions, but before I forget, have you tried to do partnerships with the suppliers themselves?
Yeah.
And do they offer you discount right from the manufacturing?
Yeah, so we've tried really hard to kind of like get the connections with the Kimberly-Clarks of the world and the Colgate-Palmolives of the world, but we haven't been successful.
Okay.
But we've got arrangements now through Safeway. When Safeway orders things in bulk, a couple of times we can plug into their ordering system and we can get some discounted rates with products. So that's one. We also have kind of like volume distributors. It's not like the manufacturers, but it's a second level. So even then we are paying markups, right? But we do have, relationships with volume distributors now who can give us sources products at better pricing than what we can pick up from. And then Amazon has been very generous with our grants that allows us to get they give us cash grants as well as grants to allow us to buy through their supply chain, right? So that's how we've been able to scale. But supply chain issues are a big deal. I'll give you an example. We've actually worked with one of the biggest suppliers of food products. Most of the food banks order through Food Lifeline. I'm sure you've heard of Food Lifeline. So whenever a food bank needs potatoes or bread, they go through Food Lifeline and they order it. So we did a pilot through our volume distribution program where we actually ship our hygiene products to Food Lifeline, so food banks can order directly. When they place an order for bread and onions, they can order 1,000 toothpaste that we would supply. But that thing was very, very successful. We didn't want to, but the problem was, again, volume, right? Food Lifeline wanted to open it up to all of the food banks, but we just weren't able to scale up to do that. So we're still trying to work out, our supply chain. If any of you have connections with the big manufacturers, we'd love to be able to talk to them and get pallets or pallet orders, right? Truckloads. I mean, we'd love to be able to do that. So.
Carol, do you guys have an official address, like physical address for the office? Because now everyone is a volunteer there, right? There are no paid positions. So where do you guys meet, like for meetings and everything?
Well, for meetings, we actually, if we're going to have a group meeting, we do that 4 times a year, and we go to one of the volunteers' houses.
Okay.
We usually do a potluck.
Okay.
But we do have a physical office, which is, the fire department in Issaquah Valley.
Yes.
At Sunset and Second. The other part of the building there has a little office that City of Issaquah lets us use for free. And so we use that office. We have room for 2 desks and 2 computers, and they provide us also with internet and with telephone. So it's just a huge help to us. So that's where we go when we volunteer and, look at the spreadsheet to see who we should be telephoning and.
So no dollar used in maintaining the organization itself, right?
Well, we do have to pay for insurance.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well, but it comes down to, we really work at not paying for anything. We send out checks, paper checks, sort of a standard our younger volunteers. You write checks?
Yeah.
And we have to buy stamps for that. And once in a while, there's some kind of a ream of paper but most of that we just give. So we really dedicate ourselves to everything that donors give us. We want to see go back out the door to the clients.
Okay, if I could just add to your question, because you're talking about physical presence, and I was curious, where are you at on the east side, specifically Sammamish or?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, we have 3 distribution centers. Right? One is in Bellevue, Belred, right on Belred.
Is there a website, or if we went online?
Yeah, Essentials First, it's all there. And one is in Redmond, which is the Together Center, right by Bellevue. Right there, where Health Point and everything else. We are co-located with other service providers.
I only ask that question because we deal with a lot of homeless folks, and we have a database where we got all of the person's history and things.
Yeah.
If we had someone like that, and you can help them.
Oh yeah.
But it sounds like a good fit.
Absolutely.
We write a voucher for Fred Myers, and they can go get clothing or toothbrushes or things like that. But it would just supplement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to have you come over and see us, and we can please refer your clients to us too. Very low barrier.
I'll make sure that you will have each other's.
Yeah, honestly, the name sounds familiar, but it's not. I'm looking at, I got a book bigger than the Holy Bible here, and I don't have you in here. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing.
We are also listed in King County 211.
Okay. Well, I had a question about rent, since you focus on rent,
Yes.
rent eviction. But rent's being so high, do you try to pay a whole month's rent, or do you have to layer it with contributions from other organizations?
We can't pay $3,000 for one family. We would love to, but we can't. So what we do is we talk with that client and say, can you think of any other sources that might help you? And when they understand that we will give some, then they're more willing to ask family and friends to fill in the gaps. And of course, when we talk about partnering with Ron, I mean, that's exactly what we do. Say, St. Vincent de Paul might be able to help you, and you're still about $400 short on your rent after what we've done. So why don't you ask them if they might be able to come up with that 400? Or maybe a friend, you know, maybe a family member.
Something else, maybe just to kind of tack on to what you just said. I mean, the partnership is important, but I think, one of the things the Vincentians like to do is we're an advocate for that neighbor. It's amazing how when you meet with the property manager and you sit down with them and, you look at this and they got all these late charges and everything under the sun, it's like, we're trying to, obviously you got a resident and it costs money to evict a person. So what can we do to make, kind of get this thing a little bit more concise? And they will listen when you talk to them, where if the neighbor went in there and said, I'm sorry, you were late last month, so there's nothing we can do for you, so it really does open the doors, just having another person talk on your behalf, and they'll be with me, but and payment plans, when payment plans were big around COVID, it's amazing that these landlords were putting payment plans together that nobody in their right mind should sign, because they would default on it 3 months into it, and so you look at the thing and you say, can you do, 3 months? Can we stretch this out over 12 or 18 months? Because she's got a job now, and and she's gonna be getting more hours as the time goes on. Let's make it fit, unless we're trying to get rid of the person, then this payment plan is worthless, it's not gonna work. But it really does help to talk on their behalf sometimes, and I'm sure you run into the same thing. I mean, it's amazing how they start to listen. I mean, I was telling Bert, Section 8 housing, that this lady was supposed to move in a month and a half ago, and she basically, the place she was at was being torn down, and so she was out on the street, and she checked into a motel, and she had to come up with a $3,000 deposit and then rent a $1,400, and we were just jumping through hoops, and nobody was doing anything. The landlord was in Yakima, and I literally spent almost a week back and forth with these people trying to get them to listen and do stuff. Finally, to the point, I called the Section 8 inspector, and he came out and inspected the house, and wouldn't you know, it failed. And then we had to have him come back again. But they, if you just go through the paperwork, they would be waiting another week for that Section 8 person to show up. So it does help to intervene like that. And like I say, I like to get them involved, but sometimes they won't listen if it's the person themselves. They need somebody talking on their behalf to represent them. The good news is she's in an empty house right now with no furniture, but it's a first step. She's got the power on, and we're gonna send her your way to get the food, essentials, but she's got vouchers and things. So it's all coming together. But those are the stories that really make you feel good when you can get somebody. 7 children, by the way. 7 children. They were gonna live in a car last night if they didn't get to that house. So it's a good story.
I have a question. I'm curious, what were you hoping to achieve when you called the inspector?
Well, I was hoping to, because they said they couldn't tell me when, the property manager said, I can't tell you when he's gonna be out. It might be tomorrow, it might be next week. I said, well, give me the number. I'll deal with it. I know what I was expecting. He's coming out today, and he actually, the guy who was supposed to come out was in a different city. And he called the guy in Bellevue, and the Bellevue inspector came out and inspected the house in Savannah.
You wanted to expedite.
Yeah, it had to be expedited. I said, and it would be different if it was like, we waited till the last minute, but this had been going on for like almost 10 days, waiting for this inspector to show up. I said, this is insane.
Oh, they inspect before the tenant
Yeah,
moves in.
well, I asked them to change that process. In the future, I said, when you have a Section 8 house, maybe I'm just thinking of this wrong. I said, but wouldn't it make sense to inspect it first before you put it on the market for neighbors who are in need of housing? I mean, it's backwards,
Yeah.
And
They have to qualify as Section 8.
He said, that's a good idea. I said, well, how do you make that change happen? He said, I really don't know. I said, well, I'll cross that bridge another day. But that's what I was expecting to happen, and it did, so.
So do you guys have cases like when you just fall like $400 short on the entire amount, or maybe a smaller amount short to kind of gather the entire total amount? You go on the crowdsourcing pages probably, which will be through your organization, so that, and then there's like a community donor list, probably, people in the community who are okay to donate like $50 or $100, which are short, and kind of crowdsource that money. Because we donate, or organizations, I mean, through grants, you get the money as an organization, right? But have you ever tried out reaching to individual donors in the community for shorter amounts and fulfilling that needs? And when it comes through you, we as individual donors would know that it's a valid case. It's not someone just like asking and trying to crowdsource money. We know when it's coming from you, it is a very, very logical, some like authentic person asking for help, and they're falling short of like $100 and probably someone would just want to donate it.
We have not actually done the crowdsourcing,
Okay.
but what we do is fundamentally the same thing, because we do lots of requests to donors, and that money comes to us, and it might come to us in a $10 bill, it might be $100 donation. It's whatever they can afford.
They reach out to their donor base, not
Not
wild.
That's
It's
right.
nice to have a community donor list.
Yeah.
Which every
Yeah.
nonprofit
That
can
list-
just post their needs, and people who want to contribute can contribute.
That's a good
right?
idea.
The community donor list, one of the things I wanted to do when I became president, I said, yeah, can I get a list of the people who donate to the church? And they won't share it because, I mean, it sounds kind of, but I understand, they're donating to the church and they're donating to this ministry. And we do have envelopes like once a quarter, I think it's once a quarter where we pass the basket and they donate. So to go to them again is, the fact that they're letting us use the church and their room and the parishioners, it's probably would be a step over the boundary, so we can't do that. But we, and like with grant money, like I said, occasionally an emergency grant came up years ago and we got some of that money, which was a blessing. So it does happen, but I don't know if Rita wants me to be calling her and you got any more money? I don't think, but there are cases where you do come up short like that, and that's where we just dial in every resource we can think of, and can you do more? And then St. Vincent, I always tell my Vincentians, I said, we have what's called guidelines, and we didn't have guidelines, but I put them in place, and people thought I was a communist or something, like, what do you mean guidelines? We can put any money we want. So we got a limited amount of funds, and I want to service as many people as we can. And I said, these guidelines were just that, they're guidelines. But if you have a need for more, then let's bring it to the table and let's talk about it, and it's what's the right thing to do in this circumstance. If it's if they need $10,000, but if it's a few $100s, to your point, you're not gonna let them fail because of $200 or something.
And someone might be just willing to donate it right there.
Yeah.
Well, and the people who donate to us, they know us.
Yeah.
So they know that we do all of this checking. They know that we, talk with the people. We know that it's a real issue.
Yeah.
And that the money that they give will go to the person, and they might give 100, but we might give 200 to that person. So we don't try to connect individuals to the giving. And I could certainly see where it'd be very attractive, because these stories just break your heart.
Exactly. And I have such like Pledge and other organizations where you can just on the website, you can just crowdsource with the story, of course, your ask, and then the community can just donate it and then fulfill the
That's a good idea.
Yeah, my question to you, and now it's expanded to all of you, still stands like, how do you validate the case, or how do you make sure that yes, that person is still in need, or continued help as well? Like the first time I understand, but if that person is coming back again and again, how do you say no, or how do you decide to say no? Firstly,
Well, one of the first things that we do is we have a 6-month limit. So if someone comes back to us within 6 months, the answer is essentially that they have to wait. Now, realistically, in every case, we listen to the story, but we almost never cut that 6 months down, maybe to 5 months, because, but But that's because also we can't have them depending on us. We don't have the capacity to carry that much. So we need to be encouraging them to get that schooling, to increase the hours at the job, to go through whatever legal process is holding them up. They need to make those steps forward. So we try very hard to hold to the 6 months and to limit, how many 6 months are we talking about?
I have a question on like eviction, and I'm curious if what strategy or approaches would you use in a case that's slightly different from the ones that I've been hearing, but like a case where the eviction is not due to any fault of the renter not paying, but because the situation changed and the landlord needs to sell the house or some other external cause that nobody wanted, but it is what it is, and that person now has to look for housing in a market that's higher than maybe what their rental rate is. Some, like a situation like that, what would the community supports and services for somebody to help them make it into a new place?
Well, the city of Issaquah actually has a homeless outreach service, and they have, and they can help people who are at risk of imminently becoming homeless. And so they're the specialists in knowing just where that right property is. And so we refer to them to take that step. And they've been sort of amazingly successful.
I think the city of Redmond has someone like that too.
Yeah, and once in a while, they will actually, the homeless outreach workers will bring the person to our office and introduce them to us. We help with second month rent on a new place because the move-in fees are enormous. And there are other agencies that will do move-in fees. So we refer to those agencies. And sometimes that'll get them through the first month, but it's when it really crashes is in the second month. Because they thought it would all be a little easier than it was.
Do you also then give recommendations as to like the communities which are more affordable and probably instead of renting at a place which is way outside the budget, you can rent at those communities there, which might be more affordable and we might be able to support you better there?
Yeah, especially with, and I'm sure you'll have ideas on this too. There are buildings that offer supported housing and low income housing. I think we have 5 different buildings in Issaquah Sammamish area as part of the Imagine Housing group. And they're a tremendous resource. It depends a lot on whether someone actually has a voucher, so they can go for voucher properties, or if they need to go for a building.
Is there a wait list there? Like, not everyone who wants would get it.
People don't talk about wait lists much. They talk about just not having enough money for the next month. Not having enough money for the move-in.
The thing about the rent amount, though, to your point, many of our neighbors are in Section 8 low income housing, so they're getting, that each complex has so much covered by Section 8, and they're responsible for this much or some of them nothing, which is kind of a fallacy because when they hear nothing, they think they don't have to pay anything, when in fact they're responsible for garbage, sewer, water, which comes on the bill. We had a lady the other day that was $1,200 behind, and she said, "Well, I got free rent. I don't know what the big deal is." I said, "Well, and then, you got to, if you read the lease, that's your baby, and so we got together with her and kind of worked something out, but and I think that was one of the ones I was talking to you about,
Right.
but I partnered with them to get her taken care of, but But, she needs to understand that this is a fix, but you gotta, long term, you can't let these things just build up every month till it gets to be $1,200 again and say, hey, I need help, It's not the way it works. But in fairness, sometimes they don't explain it to people, they don't really understand. Eviction notice, I had a gentleman who got an eviction notice, and he didn't know what it was, and they were coming to get, basically trying to get him out of the house. We got a court order to stop that in place, and we got another 30 days until we could get that together. But it's really some tough stories out there.
I just want to say that I really have appreciated this update. I've been part of the Sammamish Rotary approach over the last few years. And, I've known of your organization through Nikki.
Yep.
And all the connections up there at the Together Center. I really, really appreciate your letting us know what's happening now. I wish the Issaquah Press was still doing this big fundraiser. I wish that we didn't have so many folks in need, especially at this time when we can't do anything. I remember the feeling I had when we could do our nightmare at Beaver Lake and have $150,000 to give out.
Yep.
And how much it felt good and how we can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's really, really rough to just sell Christmas trees and raise 25,000. But what you're doing is so important to our community. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for all your
Thank you.
support.
You are, we're the volunteers, we're going to the office, we go through things. But we would have nothing to give without you. And that's huge. Nobody needs to just, there's the telephone call. Oh, well, you tell me your problem and I'll tell you I don't have any money. It's the,
What a volunteer job, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the donors that make it work.
And trying to work with people to help them understand how they can help themselves is
Yeah.
really, really hard.
It's hard, but take this woman who's $1,200 in debt.
But
It took quite a bit of time on the phone, and I think you spent quite a bit of time with her in person to be explaining, why do you have to pay sewer? Why do you have to pay 3 kinds of water bills? And that you really do have to pay.
I was gonna think that some of what you've been saying is a lot of what you do is advocacy on behalf of your clients to, say, landlords or other places, but also it is like case management. You're advocating and helping your clients to advocate for themselves. First of all, understand their problem and how to solve it. So educating the donors. For us, it's through these visits. For many organizations, it's, the only way they tell their donors is through their newsletters or whatnot. And I think what, Sonia was saying is, hearing the stories and the specifics of how your $100 donation really can be life-changing. So, and this takes so much time. The storytelling, in your grant applications, you probably sometimes get a 200-word allocation for where you can describe, stuff. And no, it's really hard because there's so much to say. Because I used to write grants, and sometimes you can use words, and sometimes it's a letter count. Have you ever had those? Yeah, so it's really hard because telling your stories or telling the client stories is important, and it's not just tear jerking, make me feel sorry. It's hearing how they're empowered because they're learning how to take care of themselves, and that's really important because they're not going to keep coming back for more help if they're learning how to manage things.
and to fish.
Yeah, I love the essential skills that you're starting up now.
Yeah.
Because if
that's
you
a-
keep your advocacy up and their WIC or whatever starts paying
Yep.
for these
Yep.
hygiene, you've got essential skills that you're.
Exactly. Like any nonprofit, we want to put ourselves out of the business.
Yes.
That's what we want to do. We are there because of this gap.
Mhm.
But if they can fix this EBT and the SNAP thing,
Uh-huh.
we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I think the grant process should also have an optional audio files to be uploaded from each organization so that they can just speak and let it all out and tell their
Testimonials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To solve your problem though, if Bert ever runs into that problem, he's got 500 work, that he's limited to 200, he's got 500, give it to me, I'll put it in ChatGPT. and say,
ChatGPT,
Take this and make it more concise and to the point, but don't lose any of the content.
Yeah.
There it is, you know, it's like 200 words, exactly.
Good job.
You'll never get a job, trust me.
Do you have a question?
It just kind of I've heard a little bit about how some fundraising events haven't been continuing.
That is
Is
one
there
of
a
the
why?
toughest thing, yeah, St. Vincent de Paul does a couple of different things. The only one we did last year, and I gotta tell you, when I say it would work, but Domino's Pizza, if you need pizza, go to Domino's, they donated, I think it was 35 free pizzas for our bingo. And then, you know, you talk about the only way you make money in a fundraiser is to, you know, procure the stuff and not have to pay for it. And we got some gifts donated from the coffee place, Mercury is there. There's some great partners here in the Sammamish area, and you know, they were really helpful in that. And I mean, the expense, I think we bought a few of those puffy animals or whatever those things are called, those stuffed, you know, animals you could get at Costco, and gave that to the kids as gifts. And it was a big deal. I mean, $5,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but that was $5,000 we didn't have, and there was a lot of, you know, effort that went into it, but it was worth it in the end, you know. So it's just finding the people that you don't wear them out, because the volunteers, as you know, I mean, it's a big to do. I mean, you know, I talk about 18 people or 20 people, whatever, but they all have other priorities. They got families and everything else, and they're doing this in addition to it. And then you're gonna ask them to do a fundraiser and do this and this, but you know, you just need to make the time. That's what it comes down to. And you know.
The fundraiser that Joyce mentioned with Sammamish Rotary, they still tell stories about that at ICS board meetings. It was huge every year. And I was not part of it then, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was definitely an event.
We had
and-
searchlights going, you could see them
Nightmare
from
with people.
everywhere.
Yeah, the Beaver Lake, yeah.
Why did they stop?
Right, yeah.
COVID,
But,
It's
everything fell apart at that
and
time.
it's not being rebuilt, and
The vendor also.
there's no,
We actually had $100,000 in our, what we call major impact grant, and we approached the city for use of it at that time to talk about a way of getting up to see the treehouse. At that point, COVID came in. We restricted the donations instead, not to go for a mega grant, but instead to come and contribute at that time, that money to the nonprofits, just to keep going.
Very nice.
Mm.
Yeah, we've been fortunate to be named as a recipient for several different organizations. The Issaquah Rotary does boots and beer every year. And we benefit from some of that. And the Kiwanis does the fish,
Salmon bake.
right? Salmon bake, and also food at the Tuesday night concerts. The Issaquah Women's Club does fundraisers every year, and we get to share with that.
Nice.
Now, it's not $150,000, but it is, it's an entire community that comes together to support all of this. And I think they don't get enough recognition, because they put in hours and hours. Say, putting on an event like those, it consumes your life, and we can't do that, but we can support them and benefit from them.
We're gonna have the Sahali golf nonprofit golf thing. You know, anybody know anybody at Sahali where we get the golf course? That'd be neat. Or you know, there's the St. Vincent's doing one out in Auburn, but it's for the Seattle chapter. But it's a big fundraiser, and you know, it's another idea. I mean, the auction was a great idea when we had it, but gentleman who did it left, and the new regime didn't want to continue it, so it kind of went by the wayside. They had a dinner, the whole thing. It was 50,000 is a pretty good thing. The wineries in Woodinville would partner with them. It just takes some great coordination.
Did they say why they didn't want to continue? Is it because it takes so much coordination?
No, there was two things. The gentleman who used to do it, his wife was a chef, so she made the whole meal. So that was a big reason. And the new regime basically said there'll be another replacement for it. They were going to do a gala dance, but the gala dance never happened. So we're still still asking about what's going to replace it. But I think it's not going to be replaced. In my read, we had to do on our own. So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
There are some imaginative fundraisers, I think of the Knights in their crab feed.
Oh yeah,
That was phenomenal.
the Knights were there when we did our bingo. They helped us with the alcohol selling and stuff. We're good with that, but they did that for they help a lot of other things out too. That money in the air, and so they're a great group.
I had a fundraiser idea pop into my head as you were both talking about and then the World Food Program. This was prior to COVID, but there was a group called the Platopians for Peace that did a few times. What they did was they would do cooking classes at people's homes, and we have a lot of people with rather big homes, and if you got a group of say 10 people together and each person paid $100 for the cooking class, that's $1,000.
That's nice. Good idea.
That could then be like also directed towards this type of culturally appropriate food that
Sure.
they also learned how to cook themselves.
Yeah.
So they feel that.
That's a good idea.
But I think you could have, I mean, it would be a lot of work to pull that off, but I could see people in Sammamish getting engaged with that because we love our multicultural aspect of our community and trying to get out of our shells a little bit.
Yeah.
So for Essentials First, like just out of curiosity, were you related with one of those group of high schoolers?
Yeah, she was our daughter.
Okay.
She was the one who started it, so so now it's expanded beyond.
Yeah.
So
Our
we have,
daughters were in
involved.
school at the
Yeah.
same time, so Kids for Peace is special to me.
yeah,
because I
his
remember
daughter was one of the volunteers
Yeah.
who used to come and pack.
Oh, okay. Nice.
times.
Wow. Then it became big and the parents got involved too. And now
Yeah, so
it's-
now, she's now finishing a master's in public policy. Now, she's the president of the board now. So, but we have an independent board, so
Yeah.
she still provides the oversight.
Nice.
Is there anything new? Are there any new needs that you've seen kind of cropping up that is unusual or different in our community?
The big thing that we are seeing, I don't know if it's new, but we're seeing a lot of people who come to us for essential items and vocational skills, right? They're looking for jobs, especially our refugee demographics. They're looking for jobs, right? Even they have some skills, so getting them connected to local businesses and stuff like that. That could be like a really good thing. If there's a job board, if local businesses are hiring or something like that, we could connect people to that. That's a big need that we are hearing is like looking for jobs, right?
And that's kind of giving rise to your
Yeah.
essential skills.
Yes,
program.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like local Sammamish businesses are hiring small businesses, if there's like a board or something like that, we could refer people to, hey, if you're looking for a job as a cook or paying X $1. Right now, we don't know. Right now, we don't know where to direct them. So if there's some kind of like a way to connect people to available jobs, right? I mean, that's a need that we're hearing.
And part of that connection is transportation.
Also.
You can only walk so far to your job.
Yeah.
And so someone could know of a wonderful job they want here in Sammamish. They might live in the Highlands and not be able to do it. So I'd say that is a huge need, but sort of on that same line of overall needs, childcare. You just don't go off and leave your 2-year-old home alone so you can work. But if you don't work, you don't have any food. So that's a truly gigantic. Unfortunately, it's pretty easy to think of huge new areas of need. But just the simple cost, the rent. When I was in college, I paid $100 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. And it wasn't great, but it was fine. You know, and but I mean, how do you get $3,000 a month?
Right, so even if you connect them with the jobs, we're saying, hey, possibly, it's likely it wouldn't even cover it.
Well,
Right.
but on the other hand, it's much more likely it would cover
Good help.
than not having a job.
Something would help, right? I mean,
And it could be 2 or 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Would be the actual answer. But,
The
you know,
problem
there
is
also might be public policy issues that could be involved in having more apartments available at lower cost. But that's a big ask on the advocacy.
You know one that came up recently, and I've heard more DoorDash drivers than anything, and usually we help them with gas. So we had a lady who couldn't do her job, she couldn't work because she couldn't get the gas in her car to do it. So by giving her the gas money, it allowed her to, I said, how much do you make per night? She said, I can make as much as $2.25. I said, well, that's great. So you give her a $50 gas voucher at the Grange, she fills up her tank, and she, you know, the net, she's coming out ahead, and then she's got enough to keep the cycle going. So, in a case like that, we gave her two $50 vouchers. I said, that way let's get you going. You got 2 full paychecks, or I guess they pay them daily is the way she was describing. You can request the money to come in. So, for somebody who has a job in Sammamish, that's probably not a good example, but you could, but there is, the buses do run regular hours. If it's off hours and you got a problem, there is, is it Uber or one of those companies, you get 2 free rides or whatever. Lyft, I'm sorry, Lyft, thank you for my research. It's in there, but, there's things like that. Bicycle's another option, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but you can bicycle and do it, and then get on a bicycle.
I was gonna ask if that's the response that you give them. Is there referrals for used bikes or?
We at St. Vincent de Paul, we have given bikes out to people. Usually it's somebody has one, they're looking, you need anybody to do it. We do a bundle Sunday here where the truck comes and picks up stuff and then they sell it and use the proceeds to help those in need. So kind of the same concept. But we do one-on-ones when we have a parishioner call up and say, hey, I got this, does anybody need it? I had somebody call the other day, I got a crib, does anybody have a baby in a bird, because he works with Kid Vantage and Ellen, and said, and if not, they can always take the crib there and just get a new mattress or something. So things like that. So hand-me-downs, it does happen.
The gas money is really important also, and we do that as well. The Grange is the only gas station we've been able to find that will accept vouchers. So you can walk from ICS to the Grange fairly easily, but you can't walk from Sammamish or the Highlands. So if more would accept the vouchers, and of course that's, that takes some extra effort on their part to do that. There are answers to all of this.
When I was a very young adult, I accepted gas assistance for a new job. And so I held that job for 2 years at the postal service.
I don't want to get near the end, but I would say, if anybody ever feels like they want to learn more or come volunteer, we would love it. We can always use volunteers on home visits and stuff and, become a full-fledged essential one day. Who knows? There's different levels of it, so. But it is, as you said, a rewarding job. I mean, it's not made for everybody. I mean, some people are very judgmental and, it's not our job to judge. It's our job to listen, take the information and try and be an advocate and help as best we can with the circumstances. And earlier, I know they cut you off when you asked a question about denial, but, people do get denied, but, we're not a stipend. We're not a monthly stipend. I actually had somebody say, well, just put me down for $100 every month. That's not the way it works. This isn't an ongoing, thing. It's we have guidelines and we need to do it. And we do, I don't like to deny people. So, if we got into that guideline thing and it hasn't been 6 months or somebody's coming to you and they need more than we can give them, I'll look at it and say, this person has never used us before. They had an anomaly in their life that caused this. I'm going to look at the full 12 months and say, okay, it's so much money. I'm going to do this. And then, that's kind of like gets them whole again and we don't come back. But usually it works. I mean, it's
Sometimes I feel the entire process and the paperwork just takes too long to receive help.
Yes.
So like you go to the doctor and the doctor is like, fill up the forms first and then I'll look at you, right? What if the rent is just due like within 2 or 3 days and that person is not able to get all the paperwork of all the history to show you that, yes, I have been on time and probably I just need help now. So are there such kind of cases and do you treat them differently probably?
Well, our paperwork is actually pretty minimal. So we can call up an apartment manager and say, so-and-so has requested assistance. Can you send us a ledger? Okay, they can email it in 5 minutes. So we keep it very, very minimal for
So
that
kind of you
reason.
also reach out to ask for the right resources, right? It's not just the individual's responsibility to provide everything to seek help.
Right, yes, yes. I was thinking another thought and lost it. But,
the files really do tell a story. We have a database that really, the notes, I encourage our Vincentians when they meet with neighbors, to be as descriptive as you can with those notes, because it's so helpful when you're coming back for somebody who's come back a second time and you read what's going on and you get the story and, it just gives you the whole history. It really is valuable to make a conscious decision.
Yeah, capturing minute details, that would be important, right? Like sentences spoken here and there, which might just leak out or give us a view of this entire story.
yeah, an instance of our needing to deny a request might be when someone would come and they would need $6,000 and they would have to have all 6,000. That's part of the eviction process.
Yeah.
You have to pay the entire amount in order to stop the eviction. And they would have very little time. Probably, of course, we suggest family and friends and all those kinds of things. But realistically, if you're $6,000 behind and you need the money really quickly, it's not going to work. And we would not provide our piece until they had evidence that they had all the other pieces together. And that's always so hard to do. But there's no point in providing that funds to the Arton complex so they can evict the person. That's not, we do it.
And you do the same, and we do, it's called the pledge. So, we tell them, you gotta find, these are some other resources, if you can get it together, but we're good for 700 or 500 or 1,000 or whatever. And then, ICS might say 700 and then they need, 2,500. So they're only this much short. And the apartment complex knows pledge, and they get that other one, they're good to go, So it's, the sum of the parts equals the whole, that's what it boils down to.
So, and that's actually why it works so often, is because we work together because they will accept pledges. So you can put the pledges together and come up with a package. But again, if the total needed is $6,000, it's needed really soon. Then we start talking about, homeless resources, shelters, what is their plan?
Safe parking, I mean, all those things are
Yeah.
viable options, it has to be.
How can they stay safe if they are not in their home? So it goes into a different conversation.
And the money is usually given through paper checks and cash.
You know, we issue a check.
Yeah,
Check,
all
usually.
checks.
To the landlord, correct?
Yeah, right, and never, money never exchanges hands between us and the neighbor.
Right.
They will get a voucher
Okay.
to go to Fred Meyer's, and Fred Meyer's is one of the ones that takes it, and then it has to be exactly like what their license says and everything.
Okay, so no cash ever.
No,
No, no cash. And never to the client.
Okay.
It always goes to the apartment complex, the utility.
You're right.
I will say, during the day, my day job, I review permits. And so I review a lot of ADUs, not here in the Seattle area. And it can be quite concerning sometimes to see like little housing bills that get passed and it's meant to provide more affordable housing. But if, say, I approve a permit for an ADU and then I go back several months later and check to see what the rent is there, it's so astronomical that, or they're being condominiumized, and so they're being sold at very high prices. Or even most recently, bedrooms are being condominiumized now.
Wow.
With kitchenettes that aren't full kitchens and things like that. So, and I think those are, going for hundreds of thousands of dollars. To rent a bedroom, or sorry, buy a bedroom and have roommates with the shared space. So that's been rather recent, and we're keeping an eye on it. But yeah, there's some holes in everything. But it's just concerning to see something that had one intent, and it might not be.
Oh, any other questions or anything to add?
I left one thing out, and not that anybody cares, but you might, if you ever know anyone who is in need. We, like I said, we're use the room at the church, but we do have a direct number to call Mary Queen of Peace as opposed to Seattle, and they got to route it to us. People can do that too, and then there's a database. They send us an email, and then we know to call them as well. But we probably like ICS and yourself, we get back to our neighbors in less, typically in 24-hour time frame. Usually it's within like an hour or two later, because we man the phones. We have 2 people every week. Actually, we try to do 3. We have a lead and 2 volunteers, and try to handle the load. And one week you could have 5 or 10 cases, another one you could have 28. So it just depends on the time and the month. This week was a good week. Next week it starts getting a little busy, and the last week of the month is busy, and the first week of the next month, that's what it's doing. So,
Well, thank you for coming. It's
Thank
been-
you.
it's been very helpful.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, your questions have
And
been
you had some
marvelous.
brochures?
Yeah, I did, and I was gonna say, if you check the numbers and it doesn't agree with the slide, it's because we run that's a 12-month cycle, and the slides there, I did a January to December. Well, this is a fiscal year, and it ends in the middle of the year, so not to get too concerned, but
And I'll make sure that tomorrow I'll send an email with everyone's website, and then Ron, Bert, Kizza and Carola, I will connect you all on
Oh,
email.
perfect. Yeah,
So you guys can.
great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting us.
No.
Yeah.
Caroline?
I will say grab a snack on the way out.
Thank you.
It's dinner time, I know you guys haven't eaten, so please grab a snack.
we're still waiting for our audit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that one,
we
yes.
actually changed treasurers, so now you're gonna have to do it the rookie.
Okay,
But
go on
let me
then.
know when you're ready.
Ron's talking about a monitoring visits. So every couple of years, any organisation that we fund, we do monitoring visits. And that's quite like a detailed kind of audit, not even an audit, because we're not professional auditors, but just really looking at like their processes and their paperwork and how they do their work and how they record their work. And so, yeah. something like that.
We meet monthly, always the second Wednesday of the month. So tonight was our meeting, but we had to reschedule it. But if anybody's ever interested and just wants to attend the meeting, just go to Rita, let me know, and we'll expect you to come. More than welcome, sir.
We meet on Wednesdays too. So you have to find a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. Because you meet everyone. Is it always
Once a month.
month.
Oh, once, it's always the second Wednesday too? Okay, well, I guess that was still all right. I'll see if I can rearrange that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
So please.
Yeah.
And I'll email you guys.
Good.
It'll have each
Thank
other's
you,
contact.
Carol,
How
for
long
all
have
your
you been there?
volunteering. Thank you for all your
How long have I
volunteering.
been?
With St.
It's a
Vincent.
wonderful thing to be.
13 years.
I was thinking that I've seen a lot of your writing of reports for grants too. You're a phenomenal
Very
writer.
meaningful.
It's very talented.
Thank you.
I've been doing grants probably 4 or 5 years.
And before that,
And thank you.
I'm just a regular old member.
okay.
The city is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're effort.
Makes it easy.
Well,
I feel like the city wants to do things, but it it's too big, but like the hands and feet, so to speak, are like.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
whatever
I will.
deflect some
Thanks so
so
much.
that you just pay a little and you make a big difference, which is only possible. So.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's just, very difficult to take it because there's so.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's not
yeah.
good.
Everyone likes to
So,
sit because we can, sit, that you can provide. Thank you for all the work you put into it. And thank you for helping with those fundraisers.
I just wish we could do something like that.
No, it was somewhere. You know, I
So,
really
yeah,
enjoy
you're
it.
on.
You know,
You're really
the
excited
question
about that.
is who to do it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
A gigantic.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be hard to bring it down. But,
Thank you.
Still, you're putting your.
Yeah, absolutely. Go
I
ahead.
can't resist.
I'll make sure.
Oh, yes.
I mean, how many camping crowds do we have to go and stand in that warehouse and go around the table 200 times?
And you did cut days by surprise. What would that do to the food bank's budget?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have, Carol, did you mention you need more volunteers?
Yes, we did.
Because this isn't city related, but I work at Microsoft and we have Microsoft volunteers.
$25 an hour.
$25 an hour that you can talk to. So I'd like to try to, now that I know all about you, I'd like to understand my work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we got a lot.
But not as,
We have Commissioner Williams that has just gone to the move.
Okay.
She'll be back in a moment, and then
What's the best way to get hold of you?
here, I'll give you a.
and then we just have staff and start reports and commissioner reports.
No,
He's standing on your paper.
just, this isn't an important piece.
I'll make sure it's very succinct and okay. I will also send out information tomorrow morning with everyone's details, contact details and links to everyone's websites as well. That would be nice. Sorry, no, I'm like, that would be nice. Okay. We're waiting for Commissioner Williams to come back, and we're going to do the staff report and commissioner reports. So we should be able to. Thank you very much, guys. So appreciate you taking the time out to come see us.
Oh, I'm delighted. What a great discussion.
No, it was actually a fantastic.
What kind of about
No, you're right. Yeah. Because I landed in both. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And also, you guys are on level, and I forgot. And snacks have been eaten. Listen, I'm gonna have to evaluate. If people aren't having their snacks,
We're gonna
then
eat them
I'm
all,
gonna
and you have to buy a better.
I'm gonna like, I mean, like, I'm thinking like, do we need to change the snacks up? Do I wanna get fruit in? Like, are we like,
No.
I think
are
a
we a
nice
healthy
charcuterie
bunch?
board.
I know, right? Okay, oh,
Is
I
there,
know,
is there
some
really?
crackers and some cheese. Should we do crackers and cheese?
Yes, I think that could be very fun.
You know what, let's do it. Okay, next meeting, let's do crackers and cheese. What do you think, Joyce?
Are we gonna be in Bellevue or someplace?
Well,
We have the
okay,
joint
that's another
staff
thing,
report.
no, that's in the staff report, we're waiting for Commissioner
Oh.
Williams. All right, Commissioner Williams said, okay, let's do staff report, because I know we're,
Sorry.
no, no,
Like
no,
we
you're
got a
all
little bit
good,
of a
all
pumpkin
good,
spice
we're wrapping up very, very, quickly. Okay, talking to about the next meeting, I'm doing this in reverse order, we actually are not having a joint human services meeting. We're bumping that down the road, because we're gonna have an equity training for the applications. So next month, we're actually gonna bring up November's, we're gonna have Eastside Fire and Rescue and King County Sheriff's Department come. And they have a program called the CORE program. And I think it would be really beneficial because they really do see people in crisis. So when we think of like mental health cases or situations where people are like in dire need, it's invariably Eastside Fire and Rescue or King County Sheriff's Department. So we'll have them here next month
For the October meeting.
for the October meeting. So I have to go and amend that, but yes, that'll be October meeting. But very quickly, staff reports, let's see, I'm working with my peers to simplify the 2027-2028 applications that you'll be looking at and reviewing next year. It's kind of hard because we have like 14 cities all showing in one application, but there's a lot of wordy like sentences and questions that can be asked in a much more concise way. So we've worked to try and like really simplify that. And then next week I have a joint meeting with all the staff in King County, and we're going to vote then to try and kind of like put these changes through. Let's see. Oh, cross path counselling. We fund cross path counselling, as you're all aware, for a full-time counsellor. Jamie, the full-time counsellor, has actually left to pursue other opportunities. That was at the towards the end of August. So Zachary, the clinical director, says that he doesn't anticipate it being hard to fill, but as of now, they still haven't filled that post. And also he is aware that we fund them like what, $96,000 a year, and we can only give them reimbursement based on their service units. So there's a likelihood that in Q3 we will reimburse them, but not fully, because it's service unit space. So
That's terrible.
it
Yes,
really
you bet.
is. It really is. And Zach says that he feels like it will be easy to fill because it's a therapist post with benefits. And oftentimes a lot of therapists are self-employed, but yes, yeah, it came out of nowhere.
Was Jamie here to talk to?
Yes, he
He
was.
was just
yeah.
here the month before that.
Literally, yeah, I know. It's yeah. I know.
But Zach's still there.
So Zach is still there, the clinical director, so he is working hard to try and replace him. I will circle back and hopefully at the next meeting we have someone there. Zach is also, for the new commissioners, there's an opportunity for the public to call, and then they will immediately sort of take intake and then kind of give them, find a therapist that takes their insurance and do a soft handoff. So Zach is going to be doing that a while, so that's good, right? So if there's anybody in acute need, he will at least sort of like, field those calls. Let's see, we had a quarterly coffee chat at Crossroads Park in August. It was the only day where it rained, so there you go. And
Sorry, what?
it's a quarterly coffee chat. So we meet with all the nonprofits and every quarter, and it was hosted by Kindring, but it was outside in a park at Crossroads Mall. So it's an opportunity for all nonprofits to just come, have an informal chat, have some coffee, have some donuts, and yeah. Let's see.
Is that something we could go to next year? Or is it more just for
It
the?
is really just, we've never had commissioners attend. It's really just an informal coffee chat between staff and nonprofits. I'm not saying, I don't see why, I'd have to bring it up with my peers.
I wasn't asking, I was
no.
just curious.
No,
how-
I'm thinking why not? It's, yeah, I can find out like, you know, what the protocol is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it tends to sort of rotate, like we're in
Yeah.
Kirkland, then we're in Bellevue, or never in Sammamish, because Sammamish is a little bit out there. And so, yeah, people feel like, you know, the weather's different here, but yeah, so I always have to travel.
Now that we have
So it
the
would be nice
Mary
to go
Morgan.
to one, yeah.
Yeah.
And what are the usual questions they ask you? Is it more
Oh,
on the
no,
grant?
it's very,
filing
very
process?
informal. So it's
Okay.
like, it's on a Friday morning from like 9:30 to like
Oh.
11. So
like a
it's
networking
really,
thing,
it's
it
a
sounds like.
networking thing. So I
Okay.
feel like, and I will ask I feel like it's a lot more loaded if as commissioners you come, because then it becomes a beauty contest.
No, yeah.
Then it becomes like, and here's my love story and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. But
I
it's a
like
good
the
one.
analogy.
Yeah.
Good metaphor.
And let's see. Oh, and then we had the Welcoming Week Farmers Market last week. We had 6 local nonprofits serving the immigrant and cultural community come. It was very successful. Mike and I were there, and we were both jet lagged, but we made it through, and it went well. I mean, unfortunately, like with Welcoming Week, attendance for the farmers market goes down, and it was the day when all the schools started, so we didn't have a huge amount of attendance, which was a shame. But
Sorry, what is welcoming week?
and so Welcoming Week is a once a year thing, and it's the second week of September. So all the cities, all the East Side cities sign a proclamation basically saying we're a welcoming city and we welcome immigrants and refugees. And in the city, we have always traditionally hosted a welcoming farmers market, whereby we kind of like highlight all the foods from around the world, and then we get local immigrant nonprofits coming to just sort of like, you know, host and answer the community's questions and just, you know, help and just be a face out there.
Okay.
For folks, yeah. And that is it. And you have commissioner reports, and I'm thinking, do we have to extend it? We're at 8:26. So,
Do we have any commissioner reports?
Well, what has Joyce been up to?
Yes, we-
Okay, we have a mental health clinic workshop coming up at the Episcopal Church next Wednesday night. It's free, run by NAMI. It's self-evident what you there. We have a Sarah Perry coming to town to celebrate the 2nd year of our pickleball that's going on at the 120 building. And there's a barbecue there if you come.
Prepare with flyers.
Outside the back door.
So
That's on
February?
the Saturday, the 20th. And then there is the 2nd annual Aging Well Resource Fair coming up October 11th at the Sammamish Presbyterian Church, where we have about 38 vendors, including the city. Right, Rita? Everybody says yes.
so who said this?
Anyway, if you want any of these things, you know, email to you, just tell me and I'll do that. And you can send it on to everybody.
And we
They're all
actually got
free.
these in email last week, I think,
Oh, yeah.
from Sally.
Yeah, Sally sends out the whole, but that's getting paper in hand here.
I like it.
Okay, that's it.
Very well
So much
printed out.
for-
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Quality in that.
Get the word
I
out.
have a question about, I think you were going through the meeting about the building of that's being just under discussion.
120?
Are you talking
Is that
about the
120
community and cultural collective?
Yeah, how,
Yeah, that's been a public comment before the city council. You just might want to go read it.
oh,
Mm.
where would I read it?
Hey there, Mike, where can you read public comments that have been submitted in writing?
It's a little hidden on the website. I wouldn't be able to explain it verbally. I would have to just send out the link. So you
For
want
the use of the 120 building. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, but it can go further than that.
So which meeting date was that, Joyce? Sorry, Commissioner Lombard.
Community and cultural collective,
But the public comment date.
that would be it,
Okay.
from that group,
And which date did they go to city council?
last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, we can send out a link to all the public comments that were received. on
Okay,
that
yeah,
That'd
I
be
just like to,
helpful.
yeah, get an update on where that
Mhm.
stands.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Just a quick question from one of the prior meetings. The one, I wasn't here last month, but the month before that, we had talked about there maybe being some kind of opportunity to train or suggestions of things to learn of how to do equitable, fair reviews of
Sure.
information once we get to that point. And as a new commissioner, I'd appreciate any kind of help that I could get along those lines to just be prepared.
Yeah, no,
Be a
great
whole
question.
workshop.
That's what I'm working with my peers. So we're like, that will be like at the beginning of next year. And so we all want to make sure that all the commissioners have the same training. And so we're really looking as to like how we can do it, and also appreciating that everyone's coming from a different angle and different level of
Right.
experience. So no, that is definitely
Okay.
like a
I just wanted to make
priority
sure
for
it
us
was
to
in the queue of
Yeah,
things, and
Yeah,
that sounds great.
yeah, for sure.
You guys never trained me. You just
Well, you're in luck.
jumped. You just jumped.
That's what I was
That's
worried
it.
about, so.
Yes, a little bit later.
I just jumped.
Yeah,
See, these are your,
literally,
these are
yeah.
assigned to you. Start reading.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
You're good now.
Yes,
Okay.
she came midway.
Yeah, I was right. I joined right in the middle of like when it was happening. And I
All right.
was-
Well, it's 8:30,
On the nose.
and we are adjourned.
Lovely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for the name tag.